911, what's the address of your emergency?
2524 Romeldale Lane.
This house has seen its fair share of stories. College students mainly live here after all. But one story
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
has many versions.
We're gonna need an officer or something. My friend just shot himself. He's dead.
So many, it's hard to tell which might be true.
Okay, did he do it intentionally?
I don't think so. I think it was an accident.
Here in this house, a CSU senior lived with several others.
It was a pleasure to see him, find his way out here and where he didn't know a soul.
Finnegan Daly moved here from Pennsylvania for school, a double major in political science and business.
He was sort of the kid for the underdog.
His mom, Gina, says Finnegan had his eye on law school.
He was very determined. He was not a kid that ever gave up. It was not in his DNA.
Which is why this mother can't believe
my friend came in and picked it up and cocked it and shot himself.
Can't believe any of the stories about what happened that night.
Okay, what was his name?
Friend, Dally.
It was 3:30 in the morning when Fort Collins police were dispatched to the house on Romeldale Lane.
So this is Coleman. He's the one who called it in. He was inside the room.
They found the last man to see Finn Daly alive.
You're gonna be okay, ma'am.
Standing outside the house.
He didn't know anything about guns.
That night, Coleman Carver told officers he and Finn were drinking shots of tequila. Coleman had 4 guns in the house, 2 pistols, a shotgun, and a military-style AR-15. After a few drinks, he went downstairs to clear his guns like he always does, and he says Finn walked in behind him.
And I was putting them away, and he came in and started looking at it, and I told him not to grab it, and he grabbed it and shot himself.
A story he told officers on scene.
Yeah, I was just clearing them, getting ready for bed, putting them in the boxes.
And repeated to detectives back at the police station.
I heard the shot go off, and I saw an unusual amount of blood pour out onto the bed.
A story that investigators bought. It made it back to Finn's parents hours later.
My whole life just kind of stopped. Like even talking, it was like, I didn't even feel like I was in my body. I felt like my body was over here.
Finn's stepdad had to look up the number for police to hear the story straight from investigators.
And then he kind of gave me a shorthand. His roommate was there and said that, that he accidentally shot himself.
The family says Finn never had suicidal thoughts, but police told them this was an accident. The coroner did too. Eventually, the case was closed, ruled a tragic accident. But questions linger. A piece of evidence that police had missed.
Somebody saved the Snapchat picture.
According to the timestamp, Finn took this photo of Coleman moments before the shooting. In Coleman's hand, the pistol that fired the shot that killed Finnegan Daly, starting to chip away at Coleman's original story.
And I had him sat on the couch downstairs, and nobody was downstairs.
The police report from that night showed what Finn's family calls a flawed investigation.
This is it's a gunshot residue collection kit.
Police tested Coleman's hands for gunshot residue, but never submitted it for processing. Though Coleman, who's a minor, admitted he was drinking, they never ordered a blood test, even after he told them he used mouthwash while on the phone with dispatch to try to hide it.
Doing some mouthwash because I didn't want to get it in my pee.
He says after the shot, he first called his parents and family members. In fact, it took a while before anyone called 911.
How much time would you say elapsed between when the shot was fired and when you called us? After you kind of made those phone calls? 10 minutes, 15 minutes. 10 or 15.
I just can't get past that no one tried to help him. That no one really knows when he actually left this world. I don't know if he stood there paralyzed, slowly dying. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that gets me up at 3 in the morning.
Finn's family pressed the police to re-investigate and took their frustration to the press, who had even more questions.
Why the other roommates were treated as victims from the start. They weren't questioned very closely about what happened.
Colorado Sun reporter John Frank started to look into the case last year.
I'm certainly not an expert on how police work should be conducted, but from investigative reports I've read before, there are certain things that were not done.
as he was looking, Fort Collins police reopened the investigation, re-interviewing Coleman Carver, who changed his story. According to an affidavit which the publicity from Frank's article helped unseal, Carver now told investigators he was drinking beer, not tequila. In those moments before he called 911, he now says he was cleaning up, moving beer cans in a bong, even picking up the gun to remove the casing from the chamber, then placing it back in Finnegan's lap. He told investigators he was sure he was going to be arrested that night.
I was sickened. I was sickened.
The Larimer County District Attorney charged Carver with 3 counts, including a felony, tampering with evidence. Not nearly enough for the Daly family, who believe the failure of police to properly investigate that night means they will never get the full story.
The police's behavior that night was remarkable, mostly in what they didn't do.
The initial investigation certainly didn't provide all the answers, and some of it you just can't replicate.
Last month, Carver accepted a deal, pleading guilty to the tampering charge with a deferred sentence of 2 years, meaning if he is successful in probation, the charge will be wiped clean.
It will never go away. It will never go away, but Coleman's record will be wiped clean.
Gina Daly was in court to hear it all and stand up for her son like she said he always would, always keeping him close.
One side's Finnegan, the other side's Robert, and the other one is Rust and Power. There's no peace. There's no peace here.